Have you ever wondered what really happens to a woman's body and mind after age 65? Are all these changes that appear with age? Or are we ignoring important signs that directly affect health, well-being, and even the self-esteem of thousands of women in this stage of life? The truth is that getting older being a woman is a much more complex process than imagined. It's not just about white hair or wrinkles on your face. After 65, the female body undergoes deep transformations which go far beyond appearance and affect from the functioning of the body to the way of living, feeling, and relating. It is common for many women to feel that they are disappearing, being set aside, or even losing their identity over the years. But what few people say is that this has an explanation, and it starts inside the body, mainly because of an essential factor: hormonal changes. When a woman enters menopause, usually between 45 and 55 years old, there is a significant drop in estrogen production, the main female hormone, and this fall continues even after the 60s, bringing a number of physical and emotional effects that are not always taken seriously, but make all the difference in the quality of life of the elderly. Estrogen influences virtually everything in the woman's body, from skin health to the functioning of the heart, bones, and brain. With their reduction, heat waves, those sudden sensations of intense heat and sweat, continue to happen even after 65. They can appear during the day or even disturb sleep at night. In addition, many women face mood swings, ranging from irritability to anxiety or deep sadness seizures. This does not mean emotional weakness, but a natural chemical reaction of the body in the face of the lack of hormones that once helped regulate mental well-being. Another common effect, and is still treated as taboo, is vaginal dryness. This problem directly affects the woman's intimate life and may cause pain, discomfort, and even decrease sexual desire. But the most worrying thing is that many women are ashamed to talk about it, suffering in silence and believing it is something normal of age. Only it's not quite. Lack of estrogen also impacts metabolism, weight gain, fluid retention, hair and nail health. It is as if the body begins to function at a new pace, and if the woman does not understand these changes, she may end up feeling confused, tired, and even lost in this new phase of life. What's more, this phase can also bring difficulty concentration, memory lapses, and a constant feeling of fatigue. All of this together makes many women think they are getting sick when, in fact, they are just going through a natural process that requires quality attention, care, and information. But are these symptoms really inevitable? Is there no way to soften these effects and recover control over your body? Therefore, understanding what is happening to your body after age 65 is more than necessary. It is a true act of self-care. And if you are identifying with these symptoms or know any women who are going through this, already take the opportunity to leave here in the comments. Have you ever felt any of these hormonal changes? How did this impact your routine? Oh, and if this content is making sense to you, don't forget to leave the like in the video. This shows that this type of information is important and helps reach more women who also need to hear it. Of course, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because here we speak with truth and depth about everything that involves the health of the elderly, without taboos, without winding. Now, speaking of silent transformations that directly impact women's lives after 65, we need to talk about something that few people realize until the effects become inevitable: the loss of muscle mass. From the age of 60, the body naturally begins to lose muscle at a faster pace. This condition is known as sarcopenia and can directly affect the strength, balance, and even the ability to perform simple everyday tasks, such as climbing stairs, carrying bags, or lifting from bed without support. And the most worrying is that this muscle loss is often accompanied by decreased mobility and greater risk of falls. This may seem small, but it is not. A fall in old age can mean severe fracture, hospitalization, loss of independence, and, in more serious cases, until the beginning of a progressive health decline. Another point that few people speak is how much this affects the autonomy of the elderly woman. Many see each other overnight, depending on help to things that always did alone. That it affects self-esteem, generates insecurity, and can lead to social isolation. In addition, slower metabolism and lower physical activity rate make it even harder to maintain shape or recover muscle strength. And when regular exercises are not practiced, this process intensifies even more. The result? A cycle where lack of strength leads to lack of movement, and lack of movement accelerates loss of strength. But can you stop this cycle and recover part of vitality even after 65? Gradually, many women begin to realize that they no longer have the same agility as before. Lightness when walking is replaced by a constant sense of rigidity, as if the body was heavier, slower, requiring more effort even for simple everyday tasks. This is not impression, it's real, and the reason has a name: loss of muscle mass. After age 65, this process intensifies. The natural aging of the body makes the muscles begin to deteriorate in a silent way. It is as if, day after day, the force was gradually drained. And the most dangerous thing is that it happens without pain, without fuss, without clear signs in the beginning. Only after some time the effects become more evident. Difficulty climbing stairs, insecurity to walk on irregular floors, arms and weaker legs, and that feeling that the body no longer responds the same way. The technical name for this condition is sarcopenia, and it does not only affect strength, it also compromises balance, posture, and motor coordination, significantly increasing the risk of falls, something that unfortunately becomes increasingly common among elderly women. A simple fall can cause much more than one scare: fractures, chronic pain, surgeries, loss of mobility, and even prolonged immobilization pictures. And when a woman spends a lot of time lying down or with restricted movements, the picture only worsens. The muscles weaken further, autonomy decreases, and dependence on others becomes a difficult reality to face. And that doesn't just happen to those who have a health problem. Even women who have been active all their lives can suffer from this muscle loss if they do not keep their body in motion after 60. It is important to understand that physical inactivity is one of the greatest enemies of longevity with quality of life. The less the woman moves, the faster the body feels the effects. It is a dangerous cycle. Loss of force generates insecurity, which leads to inactivity, which in turn accelerates further loss of strength. And we're not just talking about bodybuilding or gym. Simple things, such as walking daily, climbing stairs, exercising with their own body weight, using resistance elastics, dancing, or even practicing regular stretching, already helps activate muscles, keep circulation up to date, and preserve mobility. The elderly woman's body needs to stay active to remain functional. Unfortunately, many still believe that getting weaker is part of aging. And yes, aging brings natural changes, but excessive weakness, joint rigidity, and movement limitation should not be seen as normal or acceptable. These are signs that the body is asking for attention, asking for action. Another very important point is that this muscle loss is also directly linked to bone health. When muscles are weak, bones also suffer more impact, increasing the risk of osteoporosis and spontaneous fractures. And like estrogen, which also helps bone protection, is already down after menopause, this combination of factors puts old women in an even more vulnerable position. And don't stop there. Muscle loss also has metabolic effects. With less muscle, the body spends less energy at rest, which facilitates the accumulation of body fat, especially in the abdominal region. This is not just an aesthetic issue. Visceral fat accumulation is associated with higher risks of type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and cardiovascular disease, problems that are more prevalent at this stage of life. That is, keeping active muscles goes far beyond physical strength. It is a matter of prevention and global health. And do you know what is sadder? Many women do not even realize that they are losing muscle until it is late, because as the change is slow and progressive, it is camouflaging in everyday life. One day it is a small fall. In the other, it is that feeling that it is harder to get up from the chair. Then, a little knee pain, an insecurity to walk on the street, a fear of stumble. And when you realize you can no longer perform small activities without help, this generates a deep psychological impact. The woman who has always been independent, who raised children, worked, managed a house, now finds herself depending on third parties for simple activities. This feeling of loss of autonomy moves self-esteem, motivation, and even identity. Therefore, it is so important to talk about it clearly, without fear, and without taboo. And this is where information comes as an empowerment tool. The more the woman understands what is happening to her body, the more she feels able to act. It is possible to preserve and even recover part of the muscle strength with simple and consistent habits. Science shows that the body responds to the stimulus at any age, It's never too late to start, and the sooner the better. So if you have gotten here, take a deep breath and pay attention. Maybe your body is signs, and maybe you are ignoring these signs for thinking that this is normal of age. But what is common need not be accepted as definitive. With small steps, with daily movements, with a little orientation and willpower, it is totally possible to maintain vitality, balance, and independence for many years yet. And if you know a woman over 60, share this video with her, because the more women know about it, the more strength we have to change this reality. More than ever, aging healthy is an act of courage, and information is our most powerful ally on this journey. And now tell me here in the comments, have you ever felt that you are physically weak than a few years ago? Have you ever had any episode of imbalance, or was afraid of falling? Write down here, "I want my strength back," or share your experience with us. Your comment can help other women realize that they are not alone. And yes, you can change this story. And when the body begins to lose strength, the movement decreases and the metabolism slows down, a new door opens. And unfortunately, it is not a good door. It is the door of the so-called silent diseases, those that come without noise, without pain in the beginning, but who are slowly settling and taking space, undermining the health of the mature women from the inside out. And the frightening is that many of these diseases are only discovered when they are already advanced. Therefore, it is essential to pay attention to the signs, routine exams, and especially in the body itself. At 65 or more, it is very common for problems such as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and cardiovascular disease. The risk increases not only by age itself, but by a combination of factors: hormonal changes, sedentary lifestyle, deregulated diet, family history, and even lifelong accumulated stress. Let's start by talking about hypertension, better known as high blood pressure. This is one of the most treacherous diseases among the elderly because it hardly has clear symptoms at the beginning. The woman may be living normally, feeling only a slight headache here, a tiredness there, and not even suspecting that her pressure is constantly high. The problem is that this high blood pressure is damaging the blood vessels gradually, increasing the risk of stroke and infarction. This is why measuring pressure regularly and tracking levels with a healthcare professional is a simple attitude that can literally save lives. Another critical point is the increase in the number of cases of type 2 diabetes in women in this age group. After 60 years, the body has more difficulty metabolizing glucose, especially if the feed is loaded with refined sugar, pasta, white breads, and ultra-processed foods. The pancreas begins to fail in the production or use of insulin, which causes blood sugar levels to be high for a long time. And the problem is that, for the most part, the body does not warn. Diabetes acts in silence, slowly compromising the vision, the kidneys, the peripheral nerves, and the circulatory system, which can lead to neuropathy, blindness, or even amputations in more severe cases. Worst of all, many women only find that they are diabetic when they have an installed complication. Now imagine all this happening at the same time in a body that already has reduced mobility and weaker muscles. The scenario becomes even more delicate when we talk about osteoporosis, a condition that mainly affects postmenopausal women because of the sudden fall in estrogen levels, which is the hormone responsible for protecting bone density. Osteoporosis weakens the skeleton progressively. The bones get hollow, fragile, and any impact can have a fracture. And it doesn't even have to be a serious drop. Often, the simple act of slipping in the bathroom or stumbling into a rug is enough to break the hip, fist, or vertebrae. Hip fracture, for example, is one of the most common and dangerous among the elderly. Recovery is slow, requires surgery and physiotherapy, and in many cases the woman has never is walking again as before. Not to mention the chronic pain that may arise, prolonged use of medicines, the constant fear of falling again, and the loss of independence that accompanies this process. Therefore, preventing osteoporosis should not be secondary care. It must be a priority, especially after 65 years. And when we talk about silent diseases, we also need to bring out cardiovascular problems, which are today one of the main causes of death among women over 60. For a long time, it was believed that heart attack and heart disease were male problems, but the reality is different. With aging and falling estrogen, the natural protection of the female heart decreases, and the arteries are more susceptible to the accumulation of fat plates, which can cause clogging, arrhythmias, ischemias, and infarctions. The big challenge is that symptoms in women are often not the same as in men. Instead of intense chest pain, signs such as back pain, nausea, extreme tiredness, cold sweat, and shortness of breath may emerge, and so many pictures are not identified in time. And the saddest thing is that many of these diseases could be avoided, or at least controlled, with simple habits such as a real nutrient diet, proper water consumption, stress control, daily movement, and regular exams. But unfortunately, the lack of information and the neglect of the health of mature women are still major obstacles. For years, many women have been taught to take care of everyone but themselves. Now, in the elderly, they need to reappear to prioritize. And this is not selfishness. This is survival. Another factor that aggravates the scenario is the abandonment of medical care. Many women stop going to the doctor often, thinking that if it is not hurting, everything is fine. But it is not. Silent diseases, as its name implies, do not cause pain in the early stages. When the pain appears, the problem is often installed. Therefore, it is essential to checkups, blood tests, bone densitometry, electrocardiograms, and frequent pressure and blood glucose measurements. These small gestures can make a gigantic difference in the long run. And here is a truth that needs to be told. Aging need not be synonymous with getting sick. The mature woman has decision-making power over her own body, about her routine and her habits. And the first step is to stop normalizing what is not normal. Getting tired all the time, having frequent dizziness, not seeing well at night, feeling numbness in your feet or thirsty all the time is not normal. They are signs. They are requests for body relief. And ignoring these signs can be expensive. But the good news is that it is never too late to start taking care of yourself. Each woman who decides to hear her own body more, seeking quality information, and adopting healthy habits is making a powerful choice to live with more awareness, more strength, and more freedom. And this is the true goal here. Open your eyes to what really matters. And now tell me here in the comments, have you done your exams this year? Have you been following your pressure, your blood glucose, your bone health? Write down here, I won't ignore the signs, or share your experience. Your comment can inspire other women to look more affectionately to themselves. Let's make this space a support point for those who want to grow old and dignity. After the body begins to show more visible signs of wear and tear, such as muscle fragility, silent diseases, and loss of vitality, a new layer of challenges begins to emerge. And this time, it is not just the physical, but the emotional, the psychological, the mind that follows all this in silence. What many people do not realize is that women's aging goes far beyond wrinkles and retirement. There is a deep and silent impact happening within many women after the age of 65, and it has to do with something that is invisible to the eye: mental health. When a woman arrives at this stage of life, it is common for her to come across a very different reality than she lived for decades. The children have already grown, often left home, perhaps built their own families and had other routines. The daily life, that constant noise of the full house giving way to silence. The work, which for years has occupied an important space of this woman's identity, is now no longer an obligation. That rush of everyday life becomes more empty hours. What was once a lack of time, now it can be too much of it. And it is precisely in this new scenario that loneliness begins to settle in. But this loneliness is not just physical, being alone at home. She is also emotional. It is the feeling of no longer heard, of no longer necessary, no longer placing a clear role in anyone's routine. Many women describe this phase C as if they were disappearing, as if they were alive but invisible. And it hurts. It hurts deeply, because for most of their lives they were the family center, the foundation of the house, the emotional pillar of all around, and suddenly they feel they were set aside. This emotional isolation can evolve very quietly to more serious paintings, such as deep sadness, constant anxiety, and in many cases depression. And here lives one of the greatest dangers. Depression in older women is often ignored, underestimated, or confused with things of age. How many times have you heard someone saying, "Oh, it's normal for her to be like this, it's really old"? This cruel and mistaken view is what many women suffer silent, without seeking help, with no one to talk to, believing that it is normal to lose the joy of living. But it is not normal. Losing pleasure in the little things, feeling like crying for no reason, having frequent insomnia, Losing appetite or living with negative thoughts every day are not natural signs of aging. These are signs that mental health needs to be cared for with the same seriousness that we take care of our hearts, bones, cholesterol. The problem is that there is still a lot of taboo to talk about it. Many women think that looking for a psychologist or psychiatrist is a sign of weakness. Others are afraid of being judged, or even looking ungrateful for feeling anyway, even having family, home, food. Only emotions don't follow a rational logic, and if there is pain, it needs to be welcomed. Another factor that contributes to the decline of mental health is social removal. Over time, the circle of friendships decreases. Some childhood friends have died, others live far away, or simply lost contact. The opportunities for social coexistence also decrease. And when there are no spaces for exchange, conversation, affection, isolation deepens. It is as if the world is walking at a pace where the elderly woman has no more space. This can generate a sense of abandonment, devaluation, and even revolt. And the most alarming is that chronic loneliness is already recognized by many experts as a risk factor as dangerous as smoking or obesity. The human brain needs connection, affection, exchange. When these stimuli disappear, it begins to work slower, less active, and this contributes to the cognitive decline. Studies already show that loneliness is linked to increased risk of dementia, memory loss, and even Alzheimer's. And you see, we are not talking about lack of love or lack of family. Many elderly women have children and grandchildren, but they still feel alone, because what is missing is not a physical company, but emotional presence, conversation, listening, appreciation. In addition, the feeling of uselessness can be devastating. When a woman believes she no longer has a function, that she is no longer productive, she tends to get more and more closely. And the more it isolates itself, the more difficult it is to resume self-esteem, joy, and desire to live. This is why the mind and body are so interconnected at this stage of life. If the woman does not feel seen, valued, or loved, this directly impacts the way she takes care of her own body, willingness to feed well, to exercise, to leave home. And this cycle can be very dangerous if not interrupted in time. But this suffering, though real, need not be lived alone. And this is where the importance of support networks comes in. Having who to talk to, participating in groups, reading clubs, meetings with other women of the same age, dance classes, group walks, all this can completely transform the emotional reality of the elderly woman. It is not about occupying time, but of rebuilding bonds, rescuing the pleasure of coexistence and strengthening the mind through human connection. It is also essential for the woman to learn to look at herself with more affection. Aging is a noble phase of life. It's not the end, it's just a new chapter. A chapter that can be lighter, more conscious, freer, if lived with emotional support and expression spaces. It is not because others are busier than your voice must be silenced. It is not because the children grew that their value has decreased. You remain essential. It continues to have a rich story, full of wisdom, experience, and strength, and the world needs it. But for this to happen, you need to talk. It is necessary to seek help when necessary. It is necessary to seek therapy, yes. Take care of the mind, yes. Ask company, yes. And especially, we need to live this new phase with emotional dignity, with respect to their pains, and with space to reinvent themselves. Because yes, even after 65, you can create new memories, make new friends, discover new pleasures, and find new meanings for life. And now that we have opened this real space, I want to hear you. Tell me here in the comments, have you ever felt invisible after 60? Have you ever felt that people stopped listening to you? Write down here, my voice matters, or share with us how you care about your mental health. Your testimonial can inspire other women to open themselves as well. We will transform this space into a place of support and welcome to those who, like you, want to grow old, presence and connection. And it is precisely when the woman allows herself to look inside when she begins to hear her own voice again, that a new possibility opens. And this possibility is powerful. Because despite all the challenges, losses, and changes that accompany this phase of life, there is also a side that few people speak, but which is real and transformative. The moment when women rediscover the pleasure of living and finds, perhaps for the first time, the true meaning of the word freedom. Yes, because after age 65, when many papers have been fulfilled, that of mother, wife, caregiver, professional, a new space is born. A space where, finally, the woman can be who she wants to be, without so many charges, without the pressure to please everyone, without the constant weight of having to prove something to someone. It is in this space that many women rediscover themselves. And this can happen simply in a new hobby, on a trip that has been kept for years, in a different haircut, in a dance class, in an inspiring book, a light conversation with someone who really listens to you. This phase of life brings the chance to redefine one's own identity, far from the expectations of others. And it is not uncommon to see women flourishing after 65 with a new energy, with a joy they had not had for decades. This is because, gradually, they realize that they no longer need to fit into old molds, that there is no rule to dress, how to talk, how to live after a certain age, that they are not wasting time. They are finally gaining time for themselves. And it is curious how this freedom also has reflexes in the body. Women who feel emotionally lighter begin to take care of each other with more affection. Self-esteem improves. Food is no longer an obligation and becomes a gesture of self-love. The daily walk is no longer about losing weight, but about feeling the wind on the face, the sun on the skin, the music on the phone. Skincare, hair, the way of dressing is an expression of its own identity, not an attempt to please others. And more than that, pleasure in the broader sense of the word can also be rediscovered. Many women feel desire, curiosity, desire to explore their sexuality with more freedom and less guilt, because now, with more maturity, they understand that pleasure is not sin. It is not selfishness. It is not a thing of young people. It is an expression of the living body. It is a form of connection with itself, and when desired, with the other as well. The body may have changed, yes, but it remains a territory full of sensations, memories, and possibilities. The rediscovery of pleasure also comes in unexpected forms. A long bath, a cup of warm tea in the late afternoon, a song that touches the soul, a silent afternoon with only their thoughts. You don't have to be grand. It needs to be true. And that's the secret. After 65, what matters is not impressing the world, but living with authenticity. Another essential point of this new phase is the reunion with the purpose. Many people think that after retirement, life loses meaning. But the truth is that for many women, it is precisely at this moment that they discover what really makes sense. Without the weight of the clock, without the pressure of the routine, there is room to do what you love. And if you stop to think, you will realize that there are many ways to have purpose. Help other women, learn something new, start a small business, share experiences, volunteer, write, paint, plant, teach, listen. All this is purpose. And the most beautiful thing is that it doesn't have to be validated by anyone. What makes sense to your life just needs to make sense to you. And when the woman understands that, she strengthens herself. She breaks free. She feels again really alive. And it's amazing to see how this energy overflows. As women aged 70, 75, 80 years old can inspire, teach, and turn other lives with their experience, calm, their wisdom, their presence. Of course, not everything is flowers. There are difficult days, yes. But now, with more awareness, the woman has more resources to deal with them. It has been so much that it can now recognize what deserves attention and what does not deserve energy. You can say no without fault. It can choose more clearly what comes in and what comes out of your life. This clarity is a gift of maturity. And when this woman joins other women who are also awakening, for this new phase, something powerful happens. A stream of strength, support, freedom. Because one thing is certain, woman who supports woman transforms the world. And that's why creating support networks among mature women is so essential. These are spaces where there is no judgment, but welcome, where you can talk about everything, the pains, the achievements, the longing, the fears, the dreams. Because yes, dreams remain alive and must continue. The elderly woman is not a woman who is over. She is a woman who has lived a lot, who carries a unique story and can now write the next chapters the way she wants. What can no longer accept to live with fear, shame, or annulling. If you have come here with everything that has gone through, with everything you have faced, you deserve more than only exist. You deserve to live with intensity, lightness, true. And that's what I want to remind you now. You can reinvent yourself at any time. You can choose if you prioritize. You can live something new. You can smile for no reason. You can say no without guilt. You can wear whatever you want, dance when you feel like. Change your mind, change your way, start over. Because you are not too old for anything. You are alive. And that's all. Now I want to know about you. Tell me here in the comments, what dream do you still want to realize? What part of you feel that you are reborn now? Write down here, I'm rediscovering my life, or shares what has made you feel more alive in recent times. Your comment can inspire other women to take this step too, to also allow themselves to live with more purpose and pleasure. Let's go together on this journey. If you stayed with me here, it's because you really care about your health, your quality of life, and your well-being at this important stage of life. And so, I want to ask you 3 simple things, but they make all the difference. First, you subscribe to the channel right now and activate the bell, because here you will always find content like this, thought with affection, truth, and responsibility, to help you live with more health, autonomy, and joy in every stage of life. Second, leave your like because it shows that the content was useful to you and helps YouTube deliver this video to other women who also need to hear everything that has been said here. And third, comments down here the phrase, I choose to live with more purpose. So I know you stayed until the end, and on top of that you inspire other women to do the same. Your comment is worth more than you think. It creates connection, support, and motivation for those who are reading. Oh, and before you leave, already click on the next video that is appearing here on the screen. I have prepared him with the same dedication, and he will help you continue this journey of transformation and care for yourself. See you there.